In an interview, Hong Kong director An Hui stated, "When I went to a big hospital in Hong Kong for treatment, it's a world apart from when I was living abroad, and it's never represented in film." The same sentiment can be found in the works of French director Florian Zeller, evidenced by the two family drama films, A Simple Life, released in 2011 and directed by An Hui, and The Father, released in 2020 and directed by Florian Zeller. These films will help explore the research question: how do the dramas A Simple Life and The Father convey family dynamics during hardship? Since both these films portray elements of dramas, I will explore this topic through three pivotal points in the films: when the characters first encounter the hardships, the new equilibrium of each family adapting to the hardships, and finally, each of the characters coming to terms with the hardship at hand. A Simple Life follows a character called Roger and his lifelong helper, Atao, who endures a stroke and moves into a nursing home. This film is set in Hong Kong after it was handed over to China. Consequently, people generally adhere to more traditional Chinese values, one of which being that a person's relationship with their family should invariably prioritize above anything else. Additionally, the importance of respecting elders is stressed too, along with the notion that it should be a child's responsibility to take care and protect their parents once they are older. This culture has been endorsed through years of Chinese tradition within family homes, and ultimately stemmed from the idea that children should give back to their parents by providing them with adequate care and affection once they are unable to look after themselves. This principle cultivates empathy in children from a young age, thus teaching them to treasure relationships with family, hence why this mentality gets passed along through countless generations in Chinese families. The father follows Anne, who is responsible for looking after her father, Anthony, who struggles with deteriorating dementia and is fighting to make sense of the world around him. Contrasting to the eastern side of the world, however, this British film uncovers how Western family relationships tend to adhere to a more callous approach rather than an empathetic one. Independence and individuality are encouraged significantly more for both the child and the parents, nurturing the idea that reliance on different generations is not entirely essential. This stems from the fact that the British government has progressed massively over the years in aiding the elderly, not only physically to increase mobility, but financially too, namely pension credits and tax benefits, hence why people over the retirement age tend to be very capable of living without family reliance. The basis of my justification for choosing this question arises from the inherent geographical and cultural differences between the two films. One film is representative of Eastern and Southeast Asian customs, while the other film generalizes Western attitudes. Differences aside, facing uncontrollable hardships is universal and is detrimental to a person no matter where you come from. Choosing films with differing geographical backgrounds further conveys this point, as it demonstrates the indiscriminate nature of suffering and the merciless effects it can have on families alike. Additionally, I personally come from a mixed family, and I've always noticed the difference in cultural traditions while growing up. I've always wanted to explore these conflicting beliefs in more depth, hence the inspiration to choose these films with contrasting cultural contexts. To begin with, a motif can be found in both films to signify the start of the disheartening journey that each character is about to face, with the purpose of establishing the setting and the attitudes of the characters for the audience. In A Simple Life, the audience is immediately told that Atal has been challenged with some medical emergency, denoted by the quick succession of Roger discovering that she is unwell, her being immediately rushed into the ambulance, then laying in a hospital bed in a somewhat stable condition. This tonal montage sequence accentuates the rapid pacing of this moment, insinuating panic in the audience. Moreover, it reflects Roger's selfless character and how he was quick to call to action in an emergency, giving the audience an idea of how much he truly cares about Atal, even though she isn't a blood-related member of the family. On the other hand, the first pivotal moment in The Father features Anne and Anthony having a conversation about why Anthony's previous caretaker had resigned from her job. The caretaker accused Anthony of calling her disrespectful names and physically threatening her, while Anthony does not recall this memory due to his dementia. Anthony's nonchalant attitude in the scene, connoted by his short one-word answers and relaxed body language, gives an impression that he is carefree and reluctant to believe that he has done anything wrong. Regardless if he remembers of the incident or not, he seems to be unfazed by the damage and ruckus that he's caused. In his mind, his caretaker is no more than a mere stranger, hence why he chooses to show no respect to the caretaker, even if she was only trying to help. These opposing approaches to how caretakers should be respected altogether solidifies the attitudes and morals that each character holds and establishes the somber tone for the rest of the film. The two films continue to exhibit the same disparities between social norms through the characterization and the development of Atao and Anthony as they learn to adapt and live with their medical challenges. When looking through the scope of cinematography in A Simple Life, there is an obvious repetition of shot types whenever Roger takes Atao out at various points in the film. The purpose of a long shot is to frame the subjects from head to toe, allowing the subjects to be established within the setting. In all of these shots, Roger is visibly leaving the elderly home with Atao to either take her out for lunch or just to spend time with her. The repeated use of the same shot type builds a sense of familiarity with the audience and creates a subconscious notion in the audience's mind that whenever this specific long shot happens, it can be alluded to as an optimistic assumption that Roger and Atao are spending time together. Consequently, Hui included this repetition to allow the audience to make note of how frequently the two are spending time together, reiterating the idea that Roger sincerely cares for Atao and tries his best to make her suffering more bearable. In comparison, the theme of repetition can also be found in The Father, albeit not nearly as heartwarming. Repetition is found in the form of flashbacks and distorted memories, portrayed through the mind of someone with dementia, by the use of a nonlinear narrative and many close-up shots to exaggerate the characters' emotions. When asked why these recurring memories were included, Zeller revealed, "Because I not only wanted The Father to be a story, but also an experience. The experience being what it's like to lose your own bearings as a viewer and to be uncertain of what is real and what isn't real." This blurred line between memories and reality forces Anthony to adapt to the life that he's living in, yet no matter how much effort is put in, his mind will always be integrated into the past. This cycle cultivates paranoia and distrust, and teaches Anthony that if he can't trust himself, then why should he trust others? As a result, the relationship between himself and his loved ones gets strained as well, leading to distance and tension being built. Finally, both the films portray the aftermath of enduring hardships and how prior relationships with family have shaped and influenced each character's attitudes towards their given situation. Atal spends her final conscious moments with Roger in the park, where they share smiles and laughter with each other. The repeated motif of them walking down this exact road establishes familiarity with the audience and displays that Roger will always be willing to accompany Atal on her endeavors, even if it inconveniences him. Their bond and love for each other is inseparable, proven by the physical wheelchair that restricts them from showing intimacy. Although Atal is restricted on her movement and speech, Roger knows her well enough to understand her wants and needs with minimal communication, shown now when he moves the wheelchair so she can hear him better. Instead of letting Atal's illness prohibit her from carrying out her normal routine, she accepts her new circumstances and doesn't let her restrictions interfere with her relationship with her godson. Moreover, in the acclaimed final scene of The Father, mise-en-scène is used to express Anthony's raw emotions as he comes to terms with reality. He has a breakdown and starts crying while proclaiming,
"Mommy. I want my mommy. I want my mommy. I want to get out of here."
The blue undertones of the bare walls and white shirt altogether create a cooler color palette, enhancing the pathos in the scene. The empty walls encapsulate the internal emptiness that Anthony feels, supported by how he longs for affection from his parents out of fear of being alone. Additionally, his feelings of despair and emptiness could also stem from his daughter leaving him in an elderly home under the care of someone new. Anthony being neglected by the ones he loves the most leaves him alone with no reliable form of support. The negligence imposed on him makes him vulnerable, and this vulnerability is a consequence of distant relationships with people who are supposed to be there for him. To conclude, A Simple Life and The Father both demonstrate that encountering hardships in life is inevitable, and these hardships have the ability to either pull families closer together or to tear them apart completely. A Simple Life uses montages and repeated shot types and motifs to show the importance of intergenerational dependence, while The Father adopts a more carefree attitude towards prioritizing family relationships in times of desperation. Ultimately, both these films provide insight and educate the audience on experiences of living with a family member with a serious illness, and provokes a thought in the viewer that allows them to decide the importance of maintaining close relationships with their loved ones.